Andrew Tate.
Hello.
You've agreed to do an interview with the BBC today.
Yep.
The material is going to be published on television, on radio, online.
Perfect.
This is Andrew Tate, one of the most famous and influential men in the world today. And this is Lucy Williamson, who works for the BBC. Tate is extremely controversial because many consider him to be a misogynist who is a negative influence upon the countless young men who follow and look up to him.
We are doing an interview with you because you're facing some very serious allegations.
Correct?
Rape, human trafficking.
Yep.
And also because there's a great deal of concern about the things you say and the impact that they have on young people, on women.
Andrew converted to Islam relatively recently, so he is certainly not a Christian. But Andrew is nevertheless a very interesting person who says many things that are worth commenting on. Let's take a look at 3 things about Andrew's interview with Lucy that were particularly interesting. They're all very important, so make sure you stick around to watch them all to get the full context of who Andrew Tate is. Number 3, listen to what Andrew says about the legacy media, such as the BBC and CNN.
I don't think the concern's about the things I say. I think the concern is for the level of influence I have and the reach I have. I would argue that a lot of the things that are already out there inside of the legacy media and the matrix as a whole are far more damaging than the things I say.
Andrew's concern about the legacy media saying very damaging things is entirely justified. Mainstream media outlets such as the BBC and CNN present worldviews that are thoroughly anti-Christian, pro-LGBTQ, and pro-abortion. Watch how CNN treated Pastor Voddie Baucham when they invited him to talk.
Believe in the woman's role.
I don't think it'll change the way evangelicals believe about women's roles. I think it has sparked a discussion. And quite frankly, feminism has gained a foothold in many evangelical churches.
Do you think that's a good thing?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Why not?
Well, because we're about the gospel. The culture doesn't dictate truth. The gospel dictates truth. My job is not to be a political pundit or political activist. My job is to be a pastor and proclaim the truth of the gospel as clearly as I possibly can.
Well, Margaret, is the Reverend sounding a little sexist, or is it just me?
I would have to say the Reverend is sounding a little questionable there.
This was also the last time CNN invited Voddie onto its network.
And so, yeah, I ended up, some of you may have seen an interview that I did on CNN before the election, talking about, some of these issues. I only got to do that one time. So, yeah, that was pretty much it. The lady said after the interview was over that, yeah, we'll have to have you back. And I knew at that moment that I would never be back on that person's show again.
And watch CNN attack Pastor John MacArthur for refusing to obey the government's unnecessary order for churches to not meet in person because of the pandemic.
Do you doubt the numbers they're putting out?
Yeah, I actually do. I think they're having trouble in the state of California. The governor just declared that he was firing the state health director because the computer system, had miscounted all kinds of things. So the whole state is in an uproar.
So whatever Andrew's faults might be, he is at the very least very correct about the danger of the legacy mainstream media.
But I believe if the legacy media is intent on spreading hate, intent on spreading extremist ideologies, which it seems they are. Not only the extremist ideology that men shouldn't work hard, but also a bunch of other ones, which I don't need to mention because most thinking people understand what the legacy media is trying to purport on not only the population, but the young children of the world. And what they are trying to push is far more damaging than me saying you should go to the gym.
There is absolutely no doubt that mainstream media promoting and celebrating things such as drag queen story hour to children is one of the most damaging things any organization or individual is doing in the culture today.
My name is John Paul Kane. I am a school teacher, currently teaching kindergarten. Oh, I'm also a drag performer. Named Facelift. So Drag Queen Story Time, it's just a wonderful time for me to be able to bring my love of working with kids with my performance.
Whereas this kind of behavior directly, explicitly, and blatantly confuses children about biblical sexuality, Listen to precisely what Lucy is accusing Andrew of.
It's not only about the criminal allegations, it's a much bigger issue. You've got children's organisations in the UK, you've got rape organisations in the UK, you've got the police naming you by name as someone who has a harmful influence on children and on women in the UK and elsewhere because of the things you say, because of the way you present gender relations, the way you say men should treat women.
Lucy cites organizations in the UK that accuse Andrew of being a negative influence on children and women because of the things that Andrew has said. Let's take a look at Andrew's response to this accusation.
That's very upsetting. And the reason that's very upsetting is because I know that's not true. I'm genuinely a good person. I believe my impact on the world is positive. In fact, if you were to read the comment section of nearly any video I post, especially by the legacy media, 95% of the population agree with me. Most people know that the things I say are positive. Legacy media as a whole has lost all its credibility in the last 3 to 4 years. Nobody believes it. And it's a shame, it's a massive shame that the BBC come here and try and push and purport this idea that I'm a dangerous person.
I'm
anti-drugs. I've never pushed drugs or any, I'm anti-drugs, I'm anti-violence. The UK is facing a knife crime epidemic, and they're going to sit here and say that I'm the most dangerous man in the UK.
It is certainly very interesting how fixated many people are upon Andrew's danger to society, considering how many other issues we are dealing with that seem far more concerning, such as the sexualization of children.
Transgender kids is a really harder thing. What's going on in Florida is, as my mother would say, close to sinful. I mean, it's just terrible what they're doing.
Governments targeting Christians.
Isabel Vaughan Spruce is the leader of 40 Days for Life campaign in Birmingham, England. She's not a terrorist, she's the opposite, she's someone who prays a lot. Well, earlier this month, she was praying silently outside an abortion clinic in Birmingham. She wasn't yelling or carrying a sign or blocking the doorway or doing anything disruptive, she was just praying. Praying! Not to the government, to God. And that's not allowed anymore, so police approached her and arrested her and charged her with violating a public space protection order and committing, quote, antisocial behavior. And we're not making this up, it was caught on video. Here it is.
Well, then you're under arrest on suspicion of failing to comply with the public spaces protection order.
And skyrocketing crime rates.
Well, chaos breaking out in downtown Chicago on Saturday night as hundreds of young people crowded the streets. And the video coming from this shocking, showing massive groups jumping on cars, causing tourists to flee the sound of gunfire. 2 teens were hospitalized after they were shot in all of this.
Similar to Lucy, Piers Morgan once tried to attack Andrew Tate in an interview, and his attempt completely backfired, with far more people siding with Andrew than with Piers.
To a man who says that whenever he sees an effeminate male stranger, he gets an overwhelming urge to murder them. He loves podcasts, he listens to a lot of podcasts. I know he's listened to Andrew Tate.
Whoa. Let's stop for a second. Let's be professional here, Piers, because you're a professional as am I. First she said, did you say that my father went? She said, my father has gone.
Her father.
That's a full-grown man, firstly. So we're talking about my impact on children. You just talked about a full-grown man here. Secondly, I've never talked about murdering effeminate men in anything online ever, in any context ever. So I don't know why they have taken some random person I've never met in the world who's full-grown, an adult, and come to their own conclusions who I've never met and lumped his name in with mine. That is absolutely unfair on every level.
Andrew is correct when he says that the comments underneath the video trying to expose his evil are overwhelmingly positive towards him.
In fact, if you were to read the comment section of nearly any video I post, especially by the legacy media, 95% of the population agree with me. Most people know that the things I say are positive.
I actually used to be kind of on the side of people who say that Andrew Tate has a terrible view of women and the world. But after watching the interviews he has done with Piers Morgan and the BBC, I now see him as being someone who is relatively similar to Jordan Peterson, a non-Christian who teaches some good things as well as some questionable things, who is very popular among young men who are tired of the emasculation of men that is occurring in our culture.
The film director Olivia Wilde has a new movie out, which she says is based on you, this insane man, this pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Incel being these weirdo loner men who are despicable in many ways. Is that you? Are you the intellectual hero to these people?
Sure, why not? You know, people have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. You know, what a terrible thing to do that is. I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
It's making you emotional, talk about that.
Well, God, you know.
This brings us to number 2. which is Andrew's diagnosis concerning the problems that young men are facing in our culture, which is trying to completely eliminate the categories of men and masculinity.
The feminist lie has been that patriarchy is bad. It is tyrannical. It is toxic. It needs to be destroyed. And they've been doing it for decades. To destroy masculinity, to destroy strong male leadership and character leads to the current disaster. Irresponsible men running loose in the streets, terrorizing a society. Weak men have given us this legacy. Weak men produce the death of society. And men are in a crisis today. They are being continually told to try to get in touch with their feminine side. So they have become defensive about their masculinity.
Some of the things that Andrew teaches to young men are actually quite good.
I am a good positive influence for the world. The things I teach men are stoicism, discipline, self-respect, hard work, obeying authority, listening to your fight coach, working hard in school, making as much money as possible in your job. If you actually watch the things I say, if you actually watch my comments about women, I've done long podcasts for hours long about females, talking about protecting for them, providing for them, how I believe a woman should be treated in a relationship.
Although Andrew is missing some key things, what he teaches to young men seems far more preferable than what our culture is teaching to young men, which consistently elevates women above men rather than teaching them about being providers and protectors.
And it's going to feature Rey as a Jedi Master this time, because I guess when there's nobody around to tell you otherwise, you can basically promote yourself to whatever position you feel like. Now I don't know about you, but I personally welcome this move, because I can't wait to see Rey as a cowardly, embittered old hobo living alone on a windswept island, drinking green alien city milk and getting totally owned by a strong, empowered young man who teaches her to be a hero again. You're not looking so disgusted now, are you, love? Oh wait, sorry, I forgot that door can only ever swing one way in modern movies. Of course Rey will be the greatest Jedi Master in all of Star Wars history, and everyone who meets her will bow down before her magnificence. And of course there won't even be an antagonist in this film, because nobody in their right mind could ever possibly challenge someone as perfect as Rey.
Maybe Andrew is right, and he has indeed always been teaching these things, or maybe Andrew has done an amazing job of rebranding himself as being more like Jordan Peterson than being someone who is crazy and radical. But regardless of the reason, there is a reason why Andrew has enormous support from an enormous amount of people. This brings us to number one, which is whether Andrew is indeed correct about his positive influence in the world.
And I believe that eventually, when the legacy media catches up, they're going to understand I'm a good positive influence. I'm not interested in damaging the world for money, because if I was interested in damaging the world for money, I could have sold drugs. Or I could make rap music and encourage everyone to stab each other like all the drill artists do.
During the interview, Lucy brought up Andrew's webcam business, and while Andrew defended himself against Lucy's particular accusations, it's worth talking about this webcam business in general.
Let me read you then what you have said about what you have done.
Sure.
You have said, my job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, get her to fall in love with me to the point where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so we could become rich together.
Regardless of whether Andrew manipulated women or not, the undeniable reality is that Andrew built much of his wealth through sexualizing women, and sexual immorality is an enormous problem in our culture.
We live in a pornographic culture, and that's one of the things that makes it very difficult to deal with pornography. We've been so inundated with pornography that we're desensitized to pornography. And that line at which we will say that's pornographic has been drawn so far out into the realm of the inappropriate that we have people who dress pornographically and they're not bothered by it, and we're not bothered by it anymore.
I'm not sure if Andrew's conversion to Islam has changed his view of sexual immorality, but I have not seen him repent of participating in this kind of webcam business. What Andrew says about protecting and providing for women is certainly good, and maybe he sees his webcam business as a stain in his past, but I simply do not know. Finally, Andrew is a convert to Islam, which means that he cannot give the most important message that people need to hear.
Because God knows the truth, I know the truth, most of the world knows the truth, and I genuinely believe that Allah is the best of planners, And whatever happens to me, regardless of whether I am martyred, regardless of whether they put a bullet in my brain, I know what I have done is good for the world, and the things I will do will continue to be good for the world.
Certainly, Andrew says some good things that are good for young men to hear, just like Jordan Peterson does. However, his message is missing the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is the only message that can save lost sinners from the wrath of God they deserve for rebelling against their Creator.
We see in Ephesians chapter 5, for example, that marriage is not just for procreation and also for sanctification, this righteous outlet for human sexual desires, but it's also for illustration. This beautiful picture of the relationship between Jesus Christ and his bride, the church. Jesus Christ, who gives us a picture of what real male headship and marriage is supposed to look like when he lays down his life for his bride, when he takes upon himself the sins of his people and suffers the punishment due to their sins, so that their righteousness being imputed, or their sinfulness being imputed to him, his righteousness can be imputed to them, so that in this double imputation, he can atone for their sins and save them from their sins and grant them entree into eternity with the triune God and his perfect unity. Christ died for sin, once for all, the just for the unjust, in order that he may bring us back to God. God made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, so that we might become the righteousness of God in him. This is what marriage is a picture of.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like these videos and want to help support this channel, the best way to do it is to just watch these videos until the end and click the subscribe button. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement.